What's going on, Packers fans? Happy Friday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. It is finally our grades episode for the week. I know it's Friday. I know the game was last Sunday. My apologies. Brewers game going to it earlier this week and, watching a couple of the other ones put me back a little bit. Usually I release these on Thursday. So I'm about 24 hours delayed on this one. So again, my apologies for that, but we'll get into the best and worst grades from Packers Bengals. Some good things to go over, some not great things to go over. We'll get into all of it in just a moment. If you would ever so kindly make sure to hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on audio or whether you're watching on YouTube. It's the simplest way to support the podcast. It's cheap, it's easy, it's free, in fact. So just hit that subscribe button and that does us a huge favor. So thank you so much in advance for doing that. Coming up this weekend, we're going to have a live pre and post game show. I am back for both of those. So really excited for that. So make sure you're checking those out over on YouTube on Sunday. We'll have Mike Wall's film preview up tomorrow on Saturday. And then a great conversation. Warren Sharp is back. I talked with him today. That episode will be up tomorrow morning on Saturday morning as well. So make sure that you are checking out all those episodes this weekend. Also, if you've not yet signed up for a Pack-A-Day membership, great episode with Aaron Nagler talking about Packers Cardinals this upcoming weekend as well. So make sure you're checking out those memberships as well. Before we get into grades, practice update, no Devontae Wyatt at practice, no LVN, and Brandon McManus was still not kicking. As far as Christian Watson, he was continuing to practice. Matt LaFleur said, we'll see as to whether or not he'll play this week. Now, last week it was a no. This week it's a we'll see. So we'll see. We'll see if he does in fact play. I think he will. I think this is going to be a minimal snap count for Christian Watson, but this could be a wait and see. And, they may wait another week. They may not want to play him in Pittsburgh on that field. So maybe they take the full 3 weeks to let him ramp up and then get him ready to go after that. We're definitely just going to have to kind of wait and see on this one and see if he's actually brought up to the active roster fully. And we should know on Saturday whether or not that transaction was made or not. If it's not made on Saturday, we'll know he's not playing on Sunday. If it is, there would be no reason to do that unless he was playing. So we'll have a great indicator on Saturday whether or not Christian Watson's going to play in this game. As far as Wyatt and LVN, you can pretty much mark them as out for this game. Matt LaFleur said as much about Wyatt. You didn't really need to ask about LVN. The thought there is that he's not going to be playing in this game. McManus may still have a small opportunity, even though he wasn't kicking on Friday. If he's good to go Saturday or Sunday, you let him go. But my guess would be Lucas Havrisik is going to be the one that's kicking in Arizona on Sunday. That's a big deal. You don't have your primary kicker in a league where everything in the margins is extremely razor thin. You want everything you can to go your way, and having a backup kicker is not always the best way to go about doing that. He was great last week, 5 for 5. Hopefully that continues and he can go make a name for himself. But if McManus can possibly go, you would love him to go. But again, more and more looking like Lucas Havrisik coming up this Sunday. As far as the Arizona Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. no longer was wearing I think they were yellow for their non-contact jersey. So he seems like he's ramping up and good to go. We'll see if he's out of concussion protocol. Kyler Murray was practicing with, again, the practice squad players, and Jacoby Brissett was practicing with the starters. That could all be fake. That could all be something just to throw everyone off the scent, but it seems to be trending in the direction that Jacoby Brissett will be the starter and that Kyler Murray will not be active for Arizona this week. They could always go in the emergency quarterback scenario too, where he's maybe active on game day and it's a break glass in case of emergency scenario, but it seems to be trending that as far as the starting quarterback goes, that it's going to be Jacoby Brissett for Arizona. And then just really quick before we get to grades, I have to say it. Steelers Bengals, Thursday night football. This is why you don't, turn your nose, at a 9-point victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. If this was different, if this was later in the season, and you're supposed to be playing your best ball, and maybe this happens, maybe it's a little bit different. There's nobody that's playing 100% great football right now. Nobody around the league. Like, every game is difficult. It's a grind. It's a challenge. And right now it's just kind of survive and advance sort of mentality of just get through that game, just win and find a way through it, because, teams are still fighting tooth and nail. There'll be teams that kind of quit along the way. You don't want to necessarily see Cleveland in week 3, right? You want to see them at the end of the year when it's been a long season and they're sitting at 2-12 or something like that. And we'll see some of the Miamis and the Clevelands and, maybe some of these teams, quit along the way. Right now, you're seeing teams give everything they have to try to pick up wins, rightfully so. And it's making it for an extremely competitive league. And Joe Flacco, I should say, and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I mean, Chase and Flacco looked incredible on Thursday Night Football against Pittsburgh. As far as the Steelers go, old number 12, now number 8, still got it. He looked really, really good. That's going to be a really fun matchup for the Packers defense coming up in a week and a half. And that Steelers defense looked atrocious. So that's going to be a really fun matchup for Jordan Love and the offense. That's going to be a fun one as we get forward or, start looking forward a week after this Arizona game. Worth noting, though, that the Steelers do have that rest advantage with their Thursday Night Football game. Green Bay obviously playing on Sunday. So Pittsburgh will have a little bit more time to prepare for that huge Sunday Night Football game, Aaron Rodgers versus the Green Bay Packers. All right, let's get to some of my notes on the film. First of all, I had a higher offensive grade than the defensive grade. I thought the offense was better in this one. Defense was, I think, a little bit disappointing, especially in the second half. Of course, the first half was really, really good. Second half, it was drive after drive after drive and just couldn't get off the field. I liked a lot of what I saw on offense. This would have been a 30-plus point performance had it not been for the interception early in the game by Jordan. That's obviously one that Jordan wants to have back. Outside of that, I thought receivers were open. I thought they did a good job of getting explosives with Matthew Golden specifically. I thought the checkdowns were there, the run after the catch. Josh Jacobs, we'll talk about a couple of those players in just a moment, but I liked what I saw. I thought the offensive line was a little bit better. Not great. I would have liked it to have been better against the Bengals defensive line that, didn't have Trey Hendrickson in the second half and didn't have much else to work with besides that. But I still thought there were some signs of improvement there. And it was just a great sign to see them get healthy. It did seem, as I was watching through the tape again, that the defense did really wear down in the second half, especially late in the game after those, kind of 3 drives in a row. It just didn't seem like they had the juice on defense. I think LVN going out definitely played a part in that. Not having Devontae Wyatt certainly plays a part in that, but that's noteworthy because this week against Arizona, you're not going to have LVN for the whole game this week, and you're not going to have Devontae Wyatt again either, at least in all likelihood. So that's going to have to be something that Green Bay works on those rotations maybe a little bit more. I need a little bit more from Rashawn Gary. I need a little bit more, just from that defensive line in totality. I still thought Micah was pretty good. We'll talk about that in just a moment as well. But I think that's where it starts. That defensive line just has to be a little bit better. Yes, Joe Flacco got rid of the ball quickly in some scenarios, but there were some other ones where there were some opportunities to get there and they just couldn't. There's only the 1 sack by LVN in the game. It needs to be just a little bit better than that coming up against Arizona and Jacoby Brissett this week. And then the last thing I'll say too is just not enough impact plays on defense. We've talked about it mostly through the week. Of course, the turnovers has been a huge talking point, but just where were the big plays on defense? You had a Keyshawn Nixon pass breakup. You had a Carrington Valentine pass breakup. You had 1 sack by LVN, a couple tackles for loss, and that was it, right? Not enough sacks, not enough forced fumbles, not enough interceptions. It felt like they couldn't make any real big explosive plays. Just kind of get that crowd going, get some momentum, get them in some second and third and long situations. This defense has to do a better job of really making sure that they are getting those explosive plays and taking away the football or creating havoc, getting some 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yard losses, whether that be on a big run, a negative run play or in a sack situation. I don't really care at this point. They've just got to start generating some of those. The last thing I'll add to here from a tape standpoint, there was a lot of conversation points this week about holding and things like that. There was one pretty egregious one on Micah Parsons where he gets held around the neck. Now, that was the Carrington Valentine pass breakup. It's possible that they would have declined that holding penalty anyway in that situation. But I didn't see it quite as egregious from a ref standpoint as maybe it looked like in real time. I still would have liked to have seen that called. I still thought there were a couple other ones. There was one with Rasheed Walker where he got away with one as well. It wasn't necessarily apples to apples in totality. I thought, again, the defense could have probably drawn a couple more fouls. There was one really ticky-tack, illegal contact down the field penalty on Green Bay that was, I mean, basically non-existent. It's just no need for it to be called whatsoever. So there were a couple things here that I would have liked to have seen improved by the refs. But when I went back and watched the tape really close, I didn't see anything that's like, oh my God, look at this game altering specific situation or things like that. So I could kind of see what they were seeing. Couple plays I would have liked to have seen called, or penalties I would have liked to have seen called. But again, Green Bay got a couple of those on their sides as well. I think to me, the bigger story here wasn't the refs. It's just I need more impact from this Packers defense. All right, let's get to our highest and lowest graded players from this game. On offense, top 3 graded players on offense. Number 1, Josh Jacobs. First thing I'll say is running backs do have some inherent advantage in the grading system. It's a little bit tougher to get negatives as running backs. It can happen. You can have drop passes, you can have fumbles, you can read the hole wrong, right? You can maybe cut the wrong way. You cut one way where there's a defender, and if you would have cut the other way, there's daylight, right? There's certainly things that can happen there. In this game for Josh Jacobs, there just really wasn't anything to be negative about. There was one blitz pickup where maybe it could have been better, but the quarterback, Jordan Love, got rid of the ball really quickly in that scenario. So there's no real negative grade there. I thought he ran to daylight every single time he had the opportunity, broke tackles, big touchdown run, caught the ball well, run after the catch. Just everything was really good from Josh Jacobs in this game. When you have 150 yards, average over 5 yards per touch, have 2 touchdowns, that's a good day at the office, right? So I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by Josh Jacobs being at number 1. So he was plus 1.15. Number 2 was Matthew Golden, plus 0.95. I'll just say this. If you liked Matthew Golden's game better than Josh Jacobs in this one and thought Matthew Golden was deserving of being the best graded player in this, go for it. Be my guest. No argument from me whatsoever. Matthew Golden was awesome. And we've talked about the plays, right? The little hitch over the middle where he takes up 20 yards because he's fast and can make people miss. The deep ball down the sideline, great hands, comes up with it, good separation. Love threw a perfect pass on that one. Of course, the end game scenario where he cuts off his route, gets to the sideline, comes up with a huge first down. Also had a broken tackle on a reverse. Had another reverse, or at least a little swing pass that was behind the line that counted as a run that he got positive yardage on. He was really, really good all day long. I love this game for Matthew Golden. Showed exactly what he's capable of. That there were a couple plays, one run block where I thought was a negative, and then there was a pass play where he struggled to get off of coverage a little bit. And just a couple more negatives there than maybe Josh Jacobs had, which was the difference between kind of separating those two. But again, both of them were fantastic. And if you want to put Matthew Golden as number 1, no issue with that whatsoever. Really fun games from both Josh Jacobs and Matthew Golden. Number 3 was Jordan Love at a plus 0.9. I'll be honest, like this, he had to overcome. This is a really negative grade for Jordan on the throw, a negative over a -1 grade on that throw for Jordan. Bad decision, bad throw. I saw somebody in the initial comments say like, because I earlier in the week said, hey, that's one that you just can't throw. There was 0.0% chance of that being completed. And somebody in the comments said, how can a ball that hit the receiver's hands be a 0.0% chance it never hit the receiver's hands? That was behind the receiver entirely. I think it was Dobbs behind the receiver entirely. Defender gets the hand on it. Defender tips it up. And then Geno Stone, great job of him rallying to the football because he's in that kind of deep safety. And then he sees Jordan roll out, sees Dobbs coming across, and just rallies to the area of the field where that ball is going to, potentially ricochet or something. And if he didn't do that, he's not there. The ball falls incomplete. Green Bay gets 3 points off of it. But Geno Stone coming up, rallying to the football, and being in a spot where if something does happen, he's available. Something did happen. He was available. He picked that off. But that's a 0% chance of success play from Jordan. And he's got to throw that away, got to get points on the board in that situation. And not only a bad decision, but a bad throw as well. Even if he did feel like he could fit that to Romeo, which I don't think he could have, he didn't put it on Romeo. He put it well behind Romeo in that situation as well. Just a really bad play from Jordan there. And then the other negative too was the overthrow to Luke Musgrave. Now, I did give a tiny amount of accident forgiveness because there was a defender right in his face. I think if that defender's not there, I think he pretty easily completes that play to Luke Musgrave. But even still, I thought there was an opportunity to complete it, or at least not completely airmail that play, maybe give Musgrave at least a chance at it. But he missed that one pretty bad. Now, he came back the very next play, threw an absolute dime to Matthew Golden on 3rd down, had the late play to Matthew Golden, picked up multiple first downs with his legs, which I thought was really important in this game as well. He hit, Romeo Dobbs over the middle on the first play of the game offensively. There was a lot of really, really positive stuff here from Jordan. Couple things he would like to have back, no question about it, but still ends up in the positive overall. Basically, one really bad decision, one really bad throw, in a really impressive day outside of those two particular plays. Hey, friends, it's time to get our sleeper picks in for Monday Night Football. Epic game this week, and it very much affects the NFC North as well. So we'll be keeping an extra eye on it. Tampa Bay versus Detroit should be a really fun matchup. This was fun to go through. I'm going to be pretty Baker Mayfield heavy on this one. Baker Mayfield, more than 240 and a half passing yards in this game. I do expect this to be a very high-powered game. I expect both of these offenses to be extremely potent. Detroit's secondary is obliterated at the moment, so I do expect Baker Mayfield to have a really impressive day throwing the football, so more than 240 and a half passing yards. However, I do expect Detroit to go interception hunting. They know Baker's going to throw it around. They know that their secondary can probably not hang with the Buccaneers' weapons, so they're going to have to get some turnovers. So I do think Baker Mayfield ends up with an interception in this game, more than 1/2 interception. And on the flip side, this feels like a big-time Amon-Ra St. Brown game in prime time, more than 73 and a half receiving yards for their number one weapon. In totality, we're going with Baker Mayfield, more than 1/2 of an interception, Baker Mayfield, more than 240 and a half passing yards, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, more than 73 and a half receiving yards. The best news is that you can get a 100% match up to $100 over on Sleeper by utilizing code PACKADAY. Again, that's a 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code PACKADAY. Also, if you're interested in a free $20 entry, they do have a opportunity right now to get one of those with no deposit required. So check that out. Terms and conditions apply for all of these promotions. Check them out over at Sleeper. They are available in over 25 states. So what are you waiting for? Check it out today and start winning over on Sleeper. Hey friends, this segment is sponsored by Row, and I have to ask you a question. Where's the best room to watch the game? You probably have something immediately at the top of your mind, right? Now let me ask you this. Where's the best room to have sex? That's a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more complicated, but you probably have somewhere where you love to get down. And if doing so, you need one thing and one thing only. That's Row Sparks, because Row Sparks is going to help you perform at your absolute best. Row Sparks is a prescription treatment that dissolves under your tongue, so you have less time to wait, usually working in 15 minutes on average. But one of the best parts of ordering from Row Sparks is that it's 100% online. It also ships discreetly and directly to your door, so you don't have to worry about anything like that. And right now, you can get $15 off on a recurring plan by going to row.co/packaday. That's row.co/packaday. And by using that, you get $15 off your first order. Yes, $15 off your first order by going to row.co/packaday. What are you waiting for? Get after this offer right now. Don't miss out, and maybe find that perfect room for sex as well. Bottom three on offense. Malik Heath, -0.4, got a lot of run in this game. Couldn't get off of coverage, really struggled to gain any separation whatsoever throughout the entire course of the day. And then as a run blocker was just okay, maybe even a little bit less than okay. And that's kind of why he's in there, is to kind of be the impact blocker in that scenario. That's kind of where he needs to make his name. And he didn't in this one. It was maybe I'll put it as well as okay, but nothing better than that. And when you're struggling to separate as a pass catcher, and you're not doing great as a run blocker, that's a bad recipe as a wide receiver. So -0.4 grade for Malik Heath in this one. Elton Jenkins, -0.3. It's not a brutal score. I thought in the middle of the game, he was a little bit better. I really dislike some of the stuff that I'm seeing from Elton Jenkins right now. I'm going to throw two names at you, and I'm not there entirely with Elton Jenkins yet. I want to be totally clear on that. I'm going to throw two names at you that I kind of screamed from the top of the mountain when things were happening, that I'm like, hey, watch out for this. This is not going well. The first one was Clinton Dix, where I'm like, he's not even running to the football at times. He's not tackling. It's just really bad football. And because he was an all-pro kind of the year before, nobody wanted to believe me. I'm like, this is not good at all. And then the next year it was not good again. And then Green Bay traded him, and Washington was all excited. And then Washington got rid of him. And then Chicago was all excited. And then Chicago got rid of him. That was ugly from Clinton Dix. And I was calling it out for a while. And then eventually things happened and people started to see it. Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham, really atrocious as a blocker in Green Bay. I mean, just god awful, absolutely god awful. Didn't really do much run after the catch, was not getting up the seam with any real vigor or intensity, was kind of calling it out, saying, this is not good, this is ugly. They kept him a year too long. There was an out in that contract that was screaming from the mountaintops, hey, get off of that contract, move on. You don't want another year of this. They took another year of it, paid him again, and it was a disaster, and eventually he gets cut, goes to Chicago, etc. I want to reiterate, I'm not quite there yet with Elgton Jenkins, but some of the effort stuff on tape from Elgton is really piss poor. And I mean, really piss poor. Why I'm not willing to put it in that category yet is because I thought in week 4 against Dallas, it was better. There was a little bit of a reprieve in week 4. I thought in the middle of this game, there were some good stuff that Elgton did in this game. And no, this is not a center thing. Maybe he's pissed about being at center. I don't know. Maybe he's pissed about his contract. I don't know. This is by far and away. Actually, I take that back. There was one other time off the ACL when he was at right tackle where he looked really bad. And it was like, you moved him from left guard to right tackle. You switch sides, you switch positions, and he's coming off an ACL injury. Bad idea. They moved him back to left guard and everything was good after that. Other than that, this is by far and away the worst that we have seen Elgton Jenkins. I hope it's just a bounce back thing and he figures it out, because this was supposed to be a really big upgrade from Josh Myers to Elgton Jenkins, and it has not been. If this was just hey, the technique's maybe not there or whatever, okay. This really just looks like he's going through the motions at times, like getting to the second level and just kind of playing patty cake. You guys know me well enough. I don't aggressively call players out very often. The other team is getting paid too. They're good players and things happen. Unless it's really something where I feel like, hey, you just got to play to the level of your ability and with better effort. Clinton Dix, Jimmy Graham, Elgton Jenkins is getting close to that territory so far this year. I love Elgton throughout his career. One of my favorite players to watch. I don't know if this is maybe just, we never know what people are going through in their personal lives or things like that. No idea. All I know is that this is not the Elgton Jenkins that we have seen in previous seasons. I'm certainly cheering him on. I hope he turns it around, but it's been a really rough start for Elgton Jenkins through the first 6 weeks and 5 games of the regular season. Hopefully it is a bigger turnaround this week against Arizona. Dontavian Wicks, negative 0.15. Couple nice catches in this game. I thought he also really struggled as a blocker, something that he has been really good at in his career, has not been as good at it this year. I want to see him get a little bit of that intensity back as a blocker. I had a couple good blocks in this one, but I had a couple not so great ones either. Negative 0.15, nothing major for Wicks here, but want to see that intensity come back in run blocking. Other players noteworthy on offense, Tucker Kraft, plus 0.75. Big catch in the seam, and then lawn darts himself into the end zone on a run after the catch play, which was fantastic. A couple plays in blocking you'd like to have back, but a couple good blocks too. PFF didn't have quite as high of a grade. They never really do on Tucker. I'm not exactly sure why, but I like Tucker Kraft's game in this one. And this is another one where Green Bay, of all the players that you need to say, hey, they need to get the ball more, Tucker needs it more than 2 times. In 2 scenarios where he did get the ball, he did have big plays. I will say this. Did have a drop touchdown. That should be noted here. Would have had a much higher grade if he just catches that touchdown pass. And then he has 3 catches, right? 2 touchdowns, and it probably looks a little bit different. But that was on the play where they rolled left, they threw it to him, and he just clean dropped it. Should have been a touchdown. There was a holding penalty in the end zone on the play, so Green Bay got another chance, and then Josh Jacobs took it in the end zone on that one. So offensively, you didn't really maybe notice it as much. But had that been like a 3rd or 4th down, that was a beautifully drawn up play. Love throws it perfectly to Kraft, and Kraft did drop that one. That would be one that he would really like to have back, but he did make up for it certainly in other aspects of the game. Aaron Banks, plus 0.1 grade for me. I didn't love Aaron Banks in this game. I didn't think he was amazing or anything like that, but I put him much closer to like a neutral level grade than a really poor performance in this one. I think the Banks hate is a little bit over aggressive. Now I get the contract is not great, right? It seems definitely like, even if Banks plays a good step of above where he played this week, the contract is probably an overpay. So I understand when it's in that context, you're maybe looking at it through a different lens, but I thought this was an okay week from Aaron Banks. Do I want to see better? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think he can play better? Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't think this was a really bad game from Aaron Banks or anything like that. Again, closer to a neutral grade. I had a very small positive on it, but better than I think the consensus was on Banks this week. And then Jordan Morgan plus 0.4, best game of his career so far, other than maybe some of the stuff he did in preseason against lesser competition, but best regular season game, I think, from Jordan Morgan so far. Looked natural at right guard. Thought he did a really nice job getting to the second level. Thought he was good in pass pro. Thought he was good in run blocking. And I thought he was deserving of the snaps over Sean Ryan. Ryan was a neutral grade when he was in there, plus 0.00, pure neutral grade. I didn't think he was bad, but I thought Morgan was playing better, and I thought they were right to stick with the hot hand in this game. Highest graded offensive lineman was Jordan Morgan, so why take him out at that point? Thought Green Bay was wise to keep him in based on the way he was playing in this game. Top 3 players on defense, Evan Williams plus 0.4. Can't say it enough. I love the way that Evan Williams is playing. Love, capital LOVE, the way that Evan Williams is playing. One play in particular really stood out to me. It's a run play, and Evan Williams comes up, and I think it's a wide receiver. Maybe it's a tight end. I forget exactly which one it is, but he comes up fast and physical and jackknifes that player into the backfield and goes and makes a play on the running back. I love that sort of energy and intensity. He was all over the place. I thought he had a really important tackling. Now, he, I guess, technically allowed the completion. Jamar Chase is in line as kind of like a H-back on the play, and it's a fake handoff. So Chase is looking like he's going to block down and then releases into kind of the flat. And Evan Williams is in one-on-one on coverage with Jamar Chase coming out of the backfield. And Chase gets separation. So kind of a slight negative there from Evan. But Chase's separation is now accelerating into the open field. And Evan Williams makes a unbelievable tackle to keep that to like a 5-6 yard gain on Jamar Chase. If he misses that, Chase is going to get an explosive play out of that. Love the way that Evan Williams is playing. Edgerrin Cooper plus 0.35. I thought there were a couple of plays where Edgerrin Cooper got matched up on running backs where he could have maybe done a little bit better as a blitzer, but he did have a couple of good blitzes. He was all over the place on tape. Did have a couple slips that amounted to bigger gains, so needs to check out those cleats a little bit, make sure he's wearing the right cleats for the field. But I thought he was all over the place as a tackler. Had a couple of really good snaps and coverage as well. So plus 0.35 grade for him. And then Micah Parsons, plus 0.2, by far and away the least impactful game that he has had so far in Green Bay. And he was still the third highest graded defender. Yes, yeah, maybe a hold here or there that could have been called. A lot of double teams, a lot of triple teams. This is what I would really point to with Micah, why this grade wasn't higher. Cincinnati really was hyper focused on making sure that Micah did not beat them. Again, a lot of chips, double teams, even triple teams, making sure he could not have that impact. And it made it very difficult for Micah to get positive grades in this one. And he had an offsides penalty, which was a pretty big negative, got knocked down a couple times, which had a couple negatives with it. And even then, he still ended up in the positive. And again, it is noteworthy just how much attention that he is drawing, still ends up the third highest graded player on defense. Bottom 3 defenders, Nate Hobbs, negative 0.4. A couple completions, not any like big ones down the field, but just kind of some quick outs. A lot of the interesting aspect of this one is Hobbs, Nixon, and Valentine. A lot of their negatives were ones where they did not actually get thrown at, where they did get beat on the play, and you probably just didn't recognize it throughout the course of the game. That happened to Valentine, who was actually my second lowest graded player, negative 0.35. There was one play where T. Higgins just completely nuked him off the line of scrimmage. And thankfully, Joe Flacco was not looking his way. It was like a slant inside. I mean, Valentine is like turned around going the opposite way, and Higgins is slanting inside. Just a complete nuke right off the line. So a couple plays like that, but Hobbs just didn't have a lot of great positive plays to make up for it, where Valentine and Nixon did have some pass breakups to kind of make up for it. Even still, Valentine negative 0.35. Again, struggled a little bit as a run defender. Even late in the game, like the last play of this game, there's a play in the flat, and Valentine has the opportunity to make the tackle to keep the player in bounds. Couldn't keep him in bounds. And because of that, they got out and then attempted the field goal, right? And, that's one where you've got to keep them in bounds and keep that clock ticking in that scenario. That was kind of a miss there from Valentine. I did have the sweet pass breakup on Jamar Chase. That was awesome, but also got beat a couple times in coverage in this game as well. So negative 0.35 for Valentine and then negative 0.25 for Karl Brooks. This is why I love talking about these grades because, yes, Karl Brooks was a negative 0.25. He did work in this game, meaning he played the most snaps of any defensive tackle in this game, was going up against double teams, played a ton. And while the grade might be a little bit negative, I thought he did a really nice job overall of giving them a ton of snaps, never really getting beat negatively where he was like completely blown out of the play or anything like that. I just think he wore down with some of those snaps through the course of the game and just didn't have any big time explosive plays, any big, quick wins defensively or anything like that. But I thought overall, this was a workman-like performance from Karl Brooks. Even if the grade ends up being a slight negative, I wouldn't be too upset for my number 3 defensive tackle playing number 1 defensive tackle snaps and kind of holding his own in this game. So yes, it ends up a negative 0.25, but I thought he put in a lot of really good work in this game, even if he didn't have a ton to show for it. Noteworthy defenders, Warren Brinson, PFF's highest graded defender for Green Bay, actually had a negative 0.1 grade on him. I did like how he played. He had a couple of really nice pass rushes in this game, which should be noted. I thought the rest of the game, he was shut down relatively easily. This is a really good first game for Warren Brinson. And I really did like some of the stuff that I saw. And I'm a pretty big Warren Brinson guy. So this is not meant to be demeaning. I just didn't quite see as high of a positive for Brinson. This is to me probably more of like a net neutral grade for him, even though I had a very slight negative on it. I still thought there's positives to take away here from Brinson, but didn't see like the best defender on the team, which is where PFF had Brinson rated in this game. Rashawn Gary, negative 0.1. Just need a little bit more from Rashawn. Need to see a little bit more pass rush presence. He's getting those one-on-one looks. He's getting advantageous opportunities because Micah Parsons is on the other side. And I just need to see him take a little bit more advantage of that. It's a really big opportunity for Rashawn to go and show that he can be a premier pass rusher in this league when he's not getting double teamed and triple teamed. Haven't quite seen enough of that. I don't want that to get confused with he's playing bad football. He's not. He's a good run defender. He's still, winning here and there in some pass rush opportunities, but it's not nearly as enough or as much as I think anybody would like it to be. Just need a little bit more from Rashawn Gary. Quay Walker, negative 0.1. I really loved a lot of the stuff from Quay in this game. Did give up the passing touchdown on 4th down earlier in the game. And so that was one of the big negatives for him. And had a couple other plays here and there, again, that he'd like to have back. And just some plays in coverage where it wasn't quite as tight. Couple tackles I thought he could have been a little bit more physical on, but there was a ton of stuff I really liked. I thought he was flying around the field as well. Still really like this version of Quay Walker, and had it not been for that one touchdown play, would have been somebody who graded in the positive in this one. Keyshawn Nixon, plus 0.05. That might be a surprise to a lot of people. I thought Nixon really battled in this game. One-on-one with Jamar Chase. Talk about 2 hang with them plays. A back shoulder where he does everything right and Chase still comes up with it. A jump ball or kind of back shoulder opportunity on 4th down for the touchdown where Nixon does, everything he can to stick with Jamar Chase on that play, and Chase still comes down with the touchdown. Another play where he is one-on-one with Chase and gets a penalty, illegal contact down the field. It was definitely a penalty. It's definitely a negative, but he is doing everything he can from making the number 1 wide receiver not in the NFL, not go completely nuclear in that game. I thought he battled, also had a really nice pass breakup, was good in run defense. There was a lot of really good stuff on tape there from Keyshawn Nixon. Ends up a slight positive, even though he had a couple of those hang with him plays against the single best wide receiver in the entire NFL. My final thoughts overall, second half defense wasn't good enough. We know that already. We've talked about it at length, but the tape certainly confirmed that. Need more big plays in defense. We've talked about that ad nauseum. We know about that, but the tape again confirmed that. And I need to see better effort, better energy, better intensity, and better play from Melton Jenkins at center if this offensive line and this offense wants to be as good as they are capable of becoming. Back tomorrow morning with Warren Sharp. Make sure you're checking out that episode. If you have not yet checked out the episode with Carmen Vitale from earlier today, make sure you're watching that as well, or listening to that wherever you get your favorite podcast. Shout out to our All-Pro and Hall of Fame members, PJ Wayne, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Wong, Peter Rataka, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Guestford, SoCal Pack, Chris Rager, Izzy Roberts, Ian Ewing, Carlo Delgado, Willie Winkle Stinkle, Jen Wright, The Gable Storm, Pack Attack Cast, Chris Weish, Craig, John D. Metropolis, Hayden Radomski, Devin Lane, Gunzusa, Alexander Newell, Dan Miller, Bill Reinhart, Richard Morales, and Les Nino. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.